How you doing? It's Niall Keady here, and I'm here with Aidan Arnold. He is the chairman of the Lusk Heritage Group, and he has produced a fabulous book and account regarding the sack of Balbriggan, and he has unearthed some new evidence, which is very, very interesting, and I just invited him in today to have a quick chat about it, really, and Aidan, so just tell us all about it.
Okay, Niall. Well, I think most people, or a lot of people, will know about the sack of Balbriggan. It happened in 1920. It happened in on September the 20th, 1920, and there was a lot of houses burnt. There were 2 people killed. There was pubs burnt down, and there was 2 RIC men killed at the time. It's been covered extensively and very well by the Balbriggan historical group and Fingal County Council, and even the Lord Mayor, not the Lord Mayor, our President Michael D was down last year, and he talked about it. You would have thought that we'd have almost been exhausted at this stage, because the amount of detail and knowledge was really excellent. But amazingly, sometimes there's something out there that people know is out there, but just have never actually come across it. And this is what I found. I found that there was a report out there which originated in 2 months after the sack of Balbriggan in Washington. There was a committee set up. If I backtrack, the English, when this happened, it was a terrible atrocity and it made worldwide news. But the British government, they didn't promote it in any way. In fact, there was a debate in the House of Commons to set up an inquiry to see what the truth was and why it happened. It was turned down out of hand, and the English said, no, we're not having an inquiry on it. Sadly for them, the rest of the world wanted to know what happened, and there was a commission set up in America. I think about 3,600 miles away from the English, where they were saying no, and there was 150 people, including Randolph Hearst, who would have been the most famous newsman in the world at the time, were on this committee. They weren't just looking at what happened in Balbriggan, they were looking at what was happening in Ireland at the time in the 1920s.
Right.
And but in the middle, well, I came across this report, which was housed in the Boston College Library. I just clicked on something one day. All it said was here. I found something here. I clicked on here, and up came this report from 1920. And I said, my goodness, I've never seen that before. And I think most people that I know have never seen it either. So that's how I came across it. And then I got particularly interested in the middle of what was an 1,100-page report, which covered an awful lot of what was going on in the 1920s with the Black and Tans and various the killings, and Balbriggan was in there among them. And there was 28 pages of this report dedicated solely to a man called John Durham from Balbriggan. John Durham, his son was chairman of the town commissioners. He was a member of the town commission as well, and he was invited. In fact, his son, who was chairman of the Balbriggan commissioners, was the one that was invited originally to give evidence, but the English had him imprisoned in Mountjoy. According to his father, he was imprisoned for, I think, riding the bicycle at night without a light on, and that's what he says is evidence. But anyway, it finished up that John Durham was the man who in the end went to America and who gave evidence on what had happened in Balbriggan, and there was 28 pages in this document which covered that. That's where my interest stemmed. I was quite excited, to be honest. I'm a bit of an old historical
Fanatic.
I'm chairman for the last 30 years of Lusk Heritage Group. So I started looking into it, and then I said, really, people would love to know this, because what this evidence was something particularly special as far as I was concerned. Most of the evidence has been picked up afterwards, or it's either been passed down from word of mouth in families, or in around 1956 there was a military tribunal set up which recorded a lot of people, including Michael Gaynor and Michael Rock and John Gaynor, am I right in that? But a lot of this evidence was picked up a long time after it happened. John Durham was there on the night. John Durham and his family were arrested, were beaten, were interrogated, and their evidence was given in America 2 months after the sack of BALBRIGGAN. So it was pretty
to get in there. Like, I've read his account of what, and it is quite harrowing and disturbing. Like, it is. It's very it's hard to read what was happening. He was afraid of his life.
He was, and his son. There was various sons. Now, James was the chap who was chairman. And there was another son, I think it was Mike or Michael. He's actually buried in Patrick. He died a few years later. He was almost beaten to a pulp on the night, and in fact he was left in a house which the Black and Tan set on fire. He never could remember how he actually got out of the house. He remembered calling for his mother and things like that. It was pretty harrowing stuff.
And just, what was the building? Is that the one that's the medical centre in BALBRIGGAN now?
Yeah, the medical centre in BALBRIGGAN was Durham's pub, and the house was attached to it. Right. So the medical centre would have been on Clonard Street, and then the house would have been
adjacent to it as such,
adjoining it.
Right.
So yeah, that's where Durham's. You see, what basically happened in BALBRIGGAN, and you can read all of this in this book, because to me, John Durham's telling of the story really brings to life what that night was. And
it's fresh. It's only a couple of weeks later, really. Yes. As well.
Yeah.
As I say, the other testimonies are several years later and handed down. This was evidence given straight after, and maybe under the fact that it wasn't going to be produced or published immediately. Is that?
No. The evidence, like that Gaynor and Rock and Corcoran would have given later on in life was in 1956. That was 36 years after the sack, and they knew when they were given evidence that was going to be locked up, and it was locked up for either 40 or 50 years. Right. So most of those people, I'm sure all of those people, were probably dead before, and then so they admitted some things, like they admitted who actually pulled the trigger and killed the RIC men on the night and all them sort of things. But if I go back to John Durham was brought over to America 2 months after the actual sack of BALBRIGGAN.
Right.
He was put up there and he was questioned for I think at least two sessions. As I say, 28 pages of verbatim evidence is given. And he paints a picture right from the start of when the two RIC men, the Burkes, came into BALBRIGGAN. They went for a drink in what's now O'Shea's, is it?
No, it was Dempsey's, and now the Mill Race. The Mill Race now.
Yeah, okay.
It was John Dempsey's, and then it was the Mill Race, and it was. I'm not sure what it was then. Maybe it was O'Shea's then, was it? No?
I think it was, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what it was in them days.
But anyway, the two RIC men were celebrating. One of them was after getting promoted, and the other lad was his brother. The chap that was promoted was the one that finished up dead. The other chap, he was shot, but he recovered. But the evidence is right from the start when these couple of men come into BALBRIGGAN. They come in a taxi. They head for the pub because there's a bit of celebration going on. Thereafter, one of them is being promoted.
And they're en route to Gormastown.
Yeah, they were RIC men. RIC men were working hand in hand with the Black and Tans, who were up in Gormastown. So they went in, and word very quickly spread in Balbriggan that these two boys are up in the pub. What happened after that, it's disputed exactly how it happened, but the long and the short of it was that at least three men who would have been Sinn Féin men from Balbriggan, Rock, Gaynor and Corcoran, landed in the back of the pub with revolvers. They say that the problem was that the RSC men had come out from Dublin in a taxi and they weren't paying their taxi fare, and that a row started over this. I would have my doubts that that was the primary reason, that in the end the two men were shot, but they were shot. So the evidence starts off there. It then goes on to describe a couple of hours later the Black and Tans arriving from Gormastown. And then the shooting and the burning and the looting started. They rounded up people like John Durham himself and his son. They shot Lawless and
well, battered more so as well.
Actually, the description here is really graphic. Even though John Durham didn't actually see them, but he was there at the barracks. He was brought. He heard shouting inside. He explains. You'll read it all, and you will be very surprised because the evidence really does come to life in the way this all happens. Then on top of all of that, the pubs were being and the houses were all being burned. People were being beaten up. Basically, the Black and Tans lost the run of themselves.
They ran amok. It's a fascinating account. It is really powerful reading. Another aspect that I'm fascinated with is Mr. Straw. And is that in the testimony?
Yes, that is in the testimony.
I just think he's a fascinating character, and I'd love to know more about him.
Or William Straw, or he was supposed to be Pen Straw or something, was it? He was a slightly mysterious character.
There's a lot of mystery about this guy, and you wonder, is he just a man of mystery, or is he a sympathiser type of...
He definitely existed, and not just did he exist, but his death caused another terrible tragedy, which was the killing of Terry Sherlock and Skerries afterwards. Jack Straw was a guy who had relations in Balbriggan, who was said to be working in cahoots with the Black and Tans. He was on the night. People did say that he was helping the Black and Tans. He was pointing out, look, no, that house, they're Sinn Féiners in there, so that house would have got burnt down. But maybe another house mightn't have got burnt down. Even the pubs, like the pub where the Burkes were shot dead, you would have thought that would have been a pub that would have been burned. That wasn't a pane's last broken.
Right.
In that pub.
Yeah, but then that was their pub.
But there was...
it was the Black and Tans.
It'd be too hard to say it was their pub, because I think the Black and Tans would have socialised in various pubs, you know.
Yeah.
But at the very end of this, John Durham really questions why his pub and three others were burnt down and this pub
was left standing. It's fascinating. It is fascinating, Aidan. Sorry, go on.
If we can just go back to the Jack Straw thing, the Jack Straw, he's called William Straw or Jack Straw, he was run out of Balbriggan after the sack. He said if he was working with the Black and Tans, you'd think he might have headed up to Gormiston camp. He would have been safer there.
Yeah.
But instead, he turned and he walked to Skerries. Terry Sherlock and another volunteer seemingly ran him out of Skerries. He headed for Lusk. He was eventually picked up.
Straight after?
On this walk. He was picked up. He was brought off. You'll see the details. It's all in here. He was court-martialed secretly that night when he was picked up, and he was shot dead. His body was found a month later in a ditch by a couple of chaps who were out picking blackberries. When his body was found and when his body was identified, the Black and Tans put 2 and 2 together and said Terry Sherlock ran him out of Skerries, and that's why they came and that's why they killed Terry Sherlock. Which was really tragic, because Terry Sherlock probably was involved in running them out of Skerries, but he had nothing whatsoever to do with the man's death.
Right.
So there's so much
it is great
detail in this.
What I love about this is that it's all within touching distance. You can nearly reach out and touch the people involved. We know the areas, and whoever had the foresight then to name the areas, Sherlock Park and Thomas Hand Street and Derham Park, and you know, it's great that will trigger stuff in people's heads. As you know, why is Derham Park called Derham Park? And it's after people like John Durham and his sons, which is great. And it's a fascinating book. Now the big question is, where can we get it?
Well, at the moment, I wish I had a better source. At the moment, I'm living in Skerries. I'm a Lusk man originally, but I'm living in Skerries, and it's easily available in the Skerries bookshop. It's available for the moment in the Skerries News, although I think they're selling and closing down just before Christmas.
All right.
And it's available in Greg Redden's as well. Look, I can be contacted on my Facebook page if anyone takes the time to look for Aidan Arnold. I'm there, and
well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Aidan. I have a shop currently running online on BALBRIGGAN.net. That's winding up too towards the beginning of next year. But for the next couple of months, I'll make this available to buy online, and it can be posted or delivered. But I'll make it available that people can buy it online if anybody wants it anywhere in the world, basically. But it can be.
I think that would be great. If you look closely, myself and Niall are wearing
Christmas jumpers, yeah.
Christmas jumpers at the moment. This little book, if somebody wants to buy it, and anyone interested in local history, I think will be interested.
And there's fascinating pictures in it as well.
It's €10. It's profusely.
It's a great book. It's really, really well put together.
It's profusely illustrated, because again, I leave a lot of the story. I don't try and analyse it. I leave it to the evidence that John Durham gave. And remember, John Durham at the time was in America 2 months after. Feelings were running very, very high. Some of the time when John Durham was asked some questions, he surprisingly didn't seem to know much. But why wouldn't it be the case? Because he was looking at the world we're going to be reporting, and he was a strong member within the Sinn Féin organisation. So I think everybody's evidence, sometimes you have to look at it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But at the same time, when you hear
it's fascinating insight, Aidan.
It gives you the chance to make your own mind up.
So there you are, folks.
What happened?
Forgotten Evidence, the sack of BALBRIGGAN, available online now, and as we said, in Redden's bookstore in Skerries, and maybe somebody might step up and stock it in BALBRIGGAN for us.
I'd love if somebody would.
So thanks very much, Aidan. It's great, and hopefully now with the Raven.ie up and running, we can have a lot more chats and things about what's going on and the history and so on.
It never ends.
We'll see how many people watch this video for a start.
There's so much of it out there, but it's forever fascinating to me.
Great, Aidan. Thanks very much. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Niall.